He left me bleeding on the street the day we divorced, said it was karma for loving the wrong woman. But fate gave me a second chance. This time I exposed his affair, destroyed his career, and built an empire on the ruins of his lies. Now he mutters equations to himself in back alleys, and she pours drinks and fake lashes. Me. I don't need revenge. I have power. And they'll never touch me again. If someone had asked me that morning how I felt, I would have said I was nervous, excited, a little breathless. I had been married to Jason Miller for 4 years. 4 long years of learning his moods, waiting for his approval, and watching him from the sidelines as he rose to become the youngest associate professor at Westbridge University. Today was our anniversary. While most couples might go out to dinner or share flowers and cards, I'd spent the week carefully crafting a surprise. One that reminded him of who we used to be. A handmade photo album, tucked with love letters from our college years. A reservation at the same cheap noodle bar we'd gone to when we were broke students. I'd even learned to bake that ridiculous lemon chiffon cake he used to obsess over. I thought maybe, just maybe, it would warm the cold distance between us. The call came at 11:07 a.m. I had just finished tying the ribbon around the album when my phone rang. The screen lit up with his name. I smiled as I answered. Hey, are you free right now? His voice was clipped. Emotionless. Come to the Civil Affairs Bureau. My hand froze midair. What? I want a divorce. Silence. I couldn't even hear myself breathe. Jason. I laughed, unsure whether to be confused or insulted. Are you joking? It's our anniversary. He didn't laugh. I'm not joking. I've already signed the papers. I stood there, frozen in my kitchen, holding a photo album in one hand and a phone in the other. I tried to find the words, but none came. I could barely whisper. Why? Pause. Then a name I hadn't heard in years. Summer. My stomach dropped. Summer Holland. The girl with the red lipstick and fake shyness. The girl who used to call him Professor in a voice that curled like smoke. The girl who once bragged that she could make any man kneel if she smiled just right. Jason's voice cracked, only slightly. The person I've always loved was Summer. She's gone now. And just like that, my hands stopped shaking. I felt nothing. No panic. No rage. Only something sharp, clean, and empty settling in my chest. I'll see you there, I said. Rachel. Don't bother. I'm coming. Whoever refuses to sign is a coward, right? I hung up. He wanted to play cold. Fine. I'd show him how ice truly felt. The Civil Affairs Bureau smelled like stale air and paper. The overhead fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, and a bored clerk pushed forms across a counter without looking up. Jason sat in the waiting area, dressed in a crisp black suit. A single white lily was pinned to his lapel. I stared at it, my eyes narrowing. It was a funeral flower. I walked up to him slowly, quietly, and took a long look at the man I once called my husband. His face was sharp as always, elegant and angular. But there was a redness at the corner of his eyes. His jaw was tight. I didn't know if it was grief or guilt. Not that it mattered. What right? I asked, voice low and even. Did you have to attend Summer Holland's funeral as her husband? He flinched. I looked down at the divorce papers on the table. My name and his, printed in stark black ink. If you were hers, then what were these last 4 years? A placeholder? A roommate? A warm body to sleep next to while you mourned someone else? Jason didn't respond. My throat was burning now. You could have told me. You could have been honest. Was I supposed to read your mind? Or were you just waiting for her to come back into your life all along? His voice, when it finally came, was cold. Your father was the one who gave me everything. The research funding. The connections. The graduate placement. If I didn't marry you, he never would have let me continue my career. So I was what? A dowry. I scoffed. You used me like a ladder. Climbed your way up and then threw me off once you hit the top. Jason's jaw clenched. You don't understand what you did to Summer. You and your family. I didn't do anything. I snapped. If I recall, it was you who helped her fake research papers. You who recommended her for grad school even when she barely passed basic calculus. I kept my mouth shut. My family covered for you. Paid off the university to keep it quiet. You only got a disciplinary warning. She got expelled. Jason's eyes turned glassy. If I could go back, he said quietly, I'd let it all burn. My job. My reputation. I wouldn't have let her transfer to another province. She didn't deserve that. My chest twisted. This wasn't just betrayal. This was erasure. He had rewritten history to suit himself, turning me into the villain of a story I had bled to protect him in. We signed the papers. I didn't hesitate. I didn't cry. And then we walked out strangers. I don't remember the crash. One moment I was making a right turn at an intersection. The next, a truck barreled toward me with blinding headlights and a deafening roar. The impact spun my car like a toy. Glass shattered. Pain exploded across my ribs. In the haze of blood and smoke, I saw Jason's car pull up behind mine. He stepped out, calm, slow, and measured. Not panicked. Not rushing. My hand lifted, trembling. "Please, call an ambulance," I gasped. "Take me to a hospital." Jason looked at me like I was something disgusting on the sidewalk. "I loved Summer long before I ever married you," he said coldly. "I tracked her for years. Watched her quietly. But you didn't just steal my future. You refused to help her when she needed it most." "What are you talking about?" I croaked. "She was forced to transfer because of you. You let your father destroy her." "You're insane," I whispered. He smiled. It wasn't kind. It was the smile of a man who'd been waiting years to say these words. "This is karma, Rachel. This is what you deserve." He turned and walked away. I watched his back retreat like it was a movie reel tearing in half. The man who had once whispered love into my ear on sleepless nights had left me to die in the street, because I hadn't saved the woman he loved more. I laughed. It came out choked, bitter, thick with blood. "How stupid," I whispered. "I shouldn't have saved either of you." Then everything went dark. A voice called my name. "Rachel, this recommendation slot is yours. You're so driven, you totally earned it." I opened my eyes. My dorm room. My old mirror. My worn-out jury flashcards stacked neatly on the table. My roommate, Nina, was beaming at me from her bed, waving a printed list. I looked at the date on the calendar. I wasn't dead. I was back. Back in the week before my grad school dreams were stolen. My hands trembled as I touched the corners of the list. My name wasn't on it. Not yet. But Summer Hollins was. A knock came at the door. Summer entered, humming. She tossed her purse on the bunk and grinned at us all. "Sometimes," she said in that syrupy tone, "hard work just isn't enough. You either have it or you don't." She looked directly at me. I looked back. This time I wouldn't wait for karma. I'd deliver it myself. The first thing I noticed was the whiteboard. There it was again, our dorm's weekly quote of the day, scrawled in Nina's uneven handwriting. "Success is 90% preparation and 10% caffeine." I had stared at that quote hundreds of times during finals week. But this wasn't finals week. No, this was before everything collapsed. Before the recommendation list came out. Before Summer Holland took what I'd worked for with forged papers and stolen charm. I was back. Truly terrifyingly back. Nina was still bouncing on her bed, completely unaware that I'd just traveled through the wreckage of my own future. "Rachel, you zoned out again," she teased. "Seriously, you need to chill. I swear if you don't get that grad school slot, I'll riot." I tried to smile, but it felt brittle. "Thanks, Nina." She flopped onto her side. "You've got this. You're top of the class. You published twice. Summer didn't even." I stopped her with a raised hand. "Don't." It wasn't time yet. My mind was racing. I had only days. Maybe less. In my last life everything had seemed fine, until it wasn't. One moment I was hopeful. The next I was erased. And Jason? He hadn't even flinched when I didn't make the list. I remembered his words like shards of glass. "What are you so upset about? It's just one slot. You've got your dad's name. Take the damn exam." At the time I hadn't realized it was guilt hiding behind indifference. But now, I saw it for what it was. Complicity. I stood up, walked to the mirror and stared into my own eyes. "I'm not losing again," I whispered. By noon I'd already pulled out my old notebooks, class schedules and project files. Not to study, no. This wasn't about education anymore. This was war. I logged into the university forum. Summer had always been smug, but in this life she was starting even earlier. A pinned post on the student highlights thread read, "Shout out to Summer Holland for winning the essay competition and landing a spot on the guest speaker panel." There was a photo attached. Summer standing at a podium, all fake modesty and wide-eyed charm, clutching a certificate I knew she hadn't earned. Beneath the post were dozens of comments. "She's so talented. Beauty and brains. I wish I had half her luck." What? Please. That speech, the award, none of it had come from effort. It had come from Jason. He had edited her essay, pulled strings behind the scenes, and fed her insider information to win. My jaw clenched as I clicked through Summer's social media accounts. She was already planting seeds, sharing blurry shots of notebooks, coffee cups, and vague captions. 3 hours of sleep, but so worth it. Laptop, computer, books. Grateful to have someone cheering me on. Bouquet. A recommendation is a blessing, but also a responsibility. Light bulb. It was subtle, calculated, the kind of manipulation that made her seem humble, relatable, aspirational. But I could see the cracks. The biggest one, a time-stamped comment under her latest post. "Can't believe Professor J helped me prep again today." Loudly crying face, folded hands. Professor J. Jason Miller. The man who was supposed to mentor me. The man I married in another life. The man who let me bleed on the pavement while blaming me for his own cowardice. I copied the post, took a screenshot, and backed it up to the cloud. Step 1. Documented. In the days that followed, I stayed quiet. Watched. Listened. Summer grew bolder. Jason got sloppier. I saw them together twice outside the humanities building. Once in the library hallway. Once at the cafe near the faculty lounge. Every time she acted coy, tucking her hair behind her ear, leaning in like every word he spoke was sacred scripture. Every time he smiled at her like she held the moon in her palms. He hadn't smiled at me that way in either life. "Rachel," Nina whispered to me during study period one afternoon, "I think something's going on between Summer and Professor Miller." I kept my expression blank. "What makes you say that?" She bit her lip. "I overheard them talking in the courtyard. It was weird. Too personal. And last night she got back late. She was humming." Nina didn't know it yet, but she was piecing together the puzzle I already saw from above. That night when Summer went out again, I stayed up. And this time I wasn't watching from my bunk. I followed her. Down the staircase. Past the gates. Into the dimly lit street outside campus. She got into Jason's car without hesitation. That was all I needed. The next morning I visited the student affairs office. I knew who handled the recommendation paperwork. Professor Liu, the department coordinator. In my past life I hadn't questioned anything. But this time I was ready. "Professor Liu," I said sweetly, "I just wanted to confirm something. When will the preliminary recommendation list be posted?" He looked up from his files, distracted. "End of this week. And it's based on academic scores and faculty endorsement, right?" "Yes. There's a point-based evaluation. You're at the top, Rachel. Don't worry." My smile didn't reach my eyes. "I'm not worried. Just curious. Has Jason Miller submitted his recommendations yet?" Professor Liu blinked. "Why would Jason?" He trailed off, then shuffled through his folders. I watched his brows knit. He submitted a candidate already. Summer Holland. And just like that, everything snapped into place. He had already done it. Used his faculty weight to push her through before the rest of us even had a chance. I leaned forward, voice like a knife dipped in honey. "Wouldn't that be a conflict of interest?" Lou looked uneasy. I suppose that's up for the ethics board." "I'm sure they'll be very interested," I said with a smile. "Have a great day." That night Summer posted again. "Some people think hard work isn't enough. But I know better. Effort does pay off. You just need the right people to believe in you." Attached. A photo of her certificate, blurred for drama, with her name just legible if you zoomed. I laughed. Well, I laughed. She didn't even realize she was handing me ammunition. Attached to that post were metadata. Date, time, location. Everything I needed to show that she had access before the official list was released. I saved the post. Took screen recordings. Compiled every one of her previous captions. I backed up chat logs. I noted times and places where Jason had crossed professional boundaries. I cross-referenced timestamps with department records. This wasn't paranoia anymore. It was proof. And with every piece my anger hardened into focus. In my last life I'd sacrificed everything to protect Jason's career. From the press, from the board, from himself. In this life, I'd be the one to destroy it. 3 days later, Summer skipped into our dorm humming again. She flopped onto her bed and tossed a shopping bag beside her. "Oh, Ratch," she said, all wide-eyed and fake-friendly. "Guess who's getting recommended?" I didn't answer. She leaned closer. "Don't worry, you're so smart. You'll ace the entrance exam anyway. It's kind of your thing, right?" I tilted my head. "And you? What about me?" "You're getting in through talent," I said, smiling. "Right." Her expression twitched. Nina looked between us, confused. "Wait, is the list out?" Summer grinned. "Not yet. But let's just say I have reliable sources." She winked. "Oh, Summer. You never learned when to keep quiet." That night I opened a blank email draft. The subject line was simple. Urgent. Academic misconduct. Grad school recommendation fraud. To the Dean. The Ethics Board. The Scholarship Committee. Attached. 27 pages of evidence. Screenshots. Time-stamped social media posts. Faculty logs. Witness statements. Even a transcript of Summer's post bragging about Professor J. I read it twice. Then hit send. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. The first rule of revenge is patience. You wait for the rope to fray. You let the blade rest on the table until they reach for it themselves. Summer Holland never knew how to wait. It was a Thursday evening, 2 days after I'd submitted the email to the ethics board. The air outside was sticky with spring rain, and our dorm smelled faintly of cup noodles and nail polish. I was reviewing my evidence folder, cross-checked and watermarked, when a ping lit up my phone. Nina's voice came from across the room. "Did you see Summer's new post?" I looked up. "What now?" She shoved her phone toward me, already grinning. "She's being extra again. Look." It was a long-form caption, one of those faux poetic diary entries she loved to write when she wanted sympathy or admiration. I read every word twice. I never wanted to be the center of attention. But when you're seen by someone who believes in your potential, you grow in ways you never imagined. He saw me, believed in me, even when I doubted myself. I told him not to intervene. I told him I wasn't ready. But he insisted. "You're already better than most of them," he said. "You just need the opportunity." Now that I've been recommended, I hope I can live up to his expectations. Thank you, Professor J. You changed my life. Below it, a soft focus photo of her hand holding a fountain pen above a leather-bound notebook. In the corner of the image, just slightly out of frame, but not enough, was Jason's name engraved in gold foil. The caption, the photo, the faux humility, it was all perfectly curated. Summer had wrapped up academic fraud in a love letter to her mentor, and tied it with a bow. I didn't need to touch my phone. Nina's voice had dropped. "That's sketchy, right?" "Very. Do you think she's actually dating him?" I smiled faintly. "Does it matter?" That night I didn't sleep. Instead I got to work. I paid a marketing intern I used to mentor in my past life, one of the few contacts I'd quietly reconnected with, to do exactly what I needed. Boost the post. Quietly. I want it trending by morning. He didn't ask why. Just asked for a payment link. The moment I confirmed it, I went back to Summer's caption and commented. "So beautiful. It's amazing what the right professor can do when he breaks the rules for someone he believes in." Red heart. It was buried under 100 other fake supportive replies. But it didn't need to stand out now. The post would take care of itself. By 7:42 a.m. the post was viral. By 8:03 students were flooding the campus forum. By 8:17 someone had screen recorded the post and uploaded it to Twitter. And by 8:35 a trending topic had emerged. Hashtag professor favoritism, hashtag academic affair. I stood by the dorm windowsill sipping coffee, watching the online world ignite like gasoline under a match. "Rachel." Nina shrieked from her bed. "Look. Our university is trending." I turned. "Seriously?" She scrolled frantically. "Yeah. Someone exposed a professor for recommending his girlfriend. They're saying he pushed her ahead of more qualified students." I played dumb. "Do they have proof?" They posted screenshots. Even found the same notebook from the pic in a faculty photo from last semester. People are going insane. They're calling her the campus mistress. Summer burst through the door, pale and wide-eyed. She marched past us and grabbed her phone from her desk. The moment she opened it, her face crumpled. I walked over slowly, phone in hand. Is something wrong, Summer? She didn't answer. Nina peeked over her shoulder. Wait, is this you they're talking about? Summer turned on her, face red. What's that supposed to mean? Just because I got a recommendation doesn't mean I didn't say anything, Nina replied coolly. You seem defensive. Summer's voice trembled. They're twisting everything. They don't know what they're talking about. Jason never, he didn't break any rules. I arched a brow. But you did write about him, didn't you? Professors aren't supposed to endorse students they're emotionally involved with. Especially not when others are more qualified. Shut up, she snapped. I leaned in, calm and slow. Or what? You'll post another love letter disguised as a scholarship essay? She raised a hand to slap me. I caught her wrist midair. I'd rethink that, I said softly. The last thing you need right now is more witnesses. Summer yanked her arm back, lips trembling, and rushed to the bathroom. That afternoon, the university issued a statement. We are aware of the allegations involving Professor Jason Miller and a graduate school candidate. We have initiated an internal investigation and will be releasing updates shortly. The comments section exploded. He's a predator. Disgusting. She stole someone's slot and brags about it online? Shameless. If I had known flirting with a professor was all it took, I wouldn't have pulled 10 all-nighters. How many other students were ignored so she could sleep her way in? My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. This wasn't cruelty. It was balance. I hadn't created the fire. I just handed them the match. 2 days later, I paid a quiet visit to Jason's office. I knew his schedule. Knew he'd be at his Thursday seminar until 4:15 p.m. I slipped inside with the spare key he'd once given me, back when he still pretended I mattered. The office smelled like aftershave and paper. His desk was clean, almost obsessively neat. But I knew him too well. I knelt beside the bottom drawer, ran my fingers along the edge, then found the hidden latch behind the file dividers. It clicked open with a soft snap. Inside, papers, certificates, handwritten notes. And there was a soft pink envelope. My heart didn't skip. It sharpened. I pulled it out gently and unfolded the letter inside. Dear Jason, it began, you once told me that intelligence without warmth was meaningless. That real brilliance came from empathy. I want to be brilliant in your eyes. I read it twice. Then 3 times. By the 4th time I could hear her voice in my head. The little flourishes. The fake sincerity. The way she made manipulation sound like poetry. She signed it with a heart next to her name. I didn't cry. Instead, I took a photo of the letter and returned it to the envelope. I placed it back exactly where I found it. Then I walked out without a single backward glance. That night I finished building my archive. 1. Screenshots of Summer's social media posts. 2. The time-stamped award photos. 3. Jason's appointment record confirming he'd recommended her. 4. Anonymous statements from 2 students who saw them together. 5. The scan letter. Each item was labeled, sorted, and cross-verified. I sent the entire folder to the university's disciplinary board. Then I sat back and waited. The next morning, Jason's lecture was interrupted mid-session. A faculty assistant walked in, whispered something in his ear. He froze. Every student in the room watched as he quietly closed his laptop and walked out, pale and stiff. The school released its second statement before noon. Professor Jason Miller has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Summer didn't come back to the dorm that night. She didn't come back the next either. Rumor had it she was hiding out in a hotel. I waited, and when the formal inquiry came, I showed up to the hearing with a neat folder in hand and a calm smile on my lips. No anger. No dramatics. Just a clear, detailed recounting of facts. One of the board members looked visibly shaken. Ms. Green, he said, you're certain about these claims? I met his gaze. I'm not here to speculate, I said. I'm here to restore what was stolen. The university's auditorium hadn't changed. The same heavy velvet curtains. The same cracked podium with its worn gold crest. The same scent of old wood and newer ambition. It was standing room only. Faculty, alumni, department heads. Everyone had gathered for the annual public lecture series. And Jason Miller, of course, was the headliner. A new dawn in theoretical ethics. beyond the ivory tower. The irony was enough to make me laugh. I stood just outside the main doors with my father beside me, arms crossed, stern as ever. His dark blazer and silver tie made him look every inch the board member he was: powerful, composed, untouchable. "Are you certain you want to do this publicly?" he asked, his voice low. "I didn't burn for years just to let them go quietly," I said. He gave her the stage. "Let's give them both the spotlight." He gave a small nod. "Understood." I pushed open the door. The hall was silent except for Jason's voice echoing off the walls. He stood tall behind the podium, sleeves rolled up just enough to seem approachable, his eyes lit with faint conviction as he spoke about academic integrity and moral courage. It would have been comical if it wasn't so sickening. I stepped into the aisle. Half the heads in the room turned. He faltered just for a beat. His gaze found mine. His voice caught. I kept walking. Then from the back of the hall my father's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Professor Miller, please stop your lecture." Gasp swept the room. Jason blinked. I'm not finished. This is still my... "You are being relieved of duty," my father said. "The board has reviewed recent findings involving your recommendation of a graduate student with whom you maintained a personal relationship." A hush fell over the auditorium. Cameras came out. Phones lifted. Jason looked straight at me. "You did this," he said quietly. "You timed it." "I did," I replied. "And I timed it well." With a signal from my father, the screen behind Jason's podium flickered to life. Slide 1. A screenshot of Summer's now-deleted post with her caption thanking Professor J, and a blurred certificate bearing the university's crest. Slide 2. A close-up photo of the love letter I found in his desk drawer, pink ink heart doodle and all. Her handwriting looped across the screen in front of hundreds. Slide 3. Faculty logs showing Jason's early submission of her name to the recommendation list, 2 weeks before the official selection period began. The auditorium erupted. He recommended his girlfriend? She stole someone else's slot. I had to publish 3 papers for mine. Is this a joke? Jason stood frozen. No words. No rebuttal. My father leaned toward the microphone. Effective immediately, Professor Miller is dismissed from his position for gross misconduct and academic favoritism. Jason's eyes flicked to me. There was no apology in them. Just rage. Wounded pride. The kind of look men give when they realize the woman they underestimated just destroyed them. I didn't blink. The next day, Summer was summoned to the disciplinary committee. She didn't show up. Instead, she marched into the administrative building in full makeup, heels clicking on tile, chin held high like she was walking a red carpet. The hearing lasted 11 minutes. 11. When she came out, she tossed her student ID on the floor and kicked it like trash. "They expelled me," she muttered to no one in particular. "I just happened to be waiting nearby." She spotted me. Her lips curled into a smirk, but her eyes were tight with fury. "You're so proud, aren't you?" she sneered. "I'm just here to collect what's mine," I said. Summer rolled her eyes. "So what? He'll take care of me now." He promised. "You can have your little university." "I already have him." I tilted my head. "Funny. You're still calling him Professor, even now?" Her smile faltered. I stepped closer, my voice like silk laced with steel. "You really think he can save you now? He couldn't even save himself. You ruined his life." "No," I said softly. "He did that all by himself. I just turned on the lights." She scoffed and stormed off, leaving her badge on the ground like an abandoned truth. That evening, the school sent out an official memo to students and faculty. Jason Miller is no longer affiliated with Westbridge University. Summer Holland has been expelled on grounds of academic dishonesty and falsified documentation. We reaffirm our commitment to fairness, transparency, and the ethical treatment of all students. It was cold, sterile, bureaucratic. But beneath the formal tone was a single truth: justice had landed. And I was the one who delivered it. Nina caught up with me outside the dorm. Her hands were shoved in her pockets, eyes bright with something between fear and admiration. "Rachel," she said, "was it really you who exposed them?" I didn't answer. She gave a small laugh. "You know what people are saying, right? That you're some kind of avenging angel." "Funny," I murmured. They used to call me a doormat. Nina hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. If it had been anyone else, not Summer, not Jason, would you still have done it? I met her gaze. No, I said simply. But it was them. She nodded slowly. Good. I passed Jason one final time that week. He was outside the faculty parking lot, clearing out his car. His once pristine leather satchel looked worn. His hair wasn't styled. He wasn't wearing his wedding band, not that I ever expected him to. He looked up as I walked by. Rachel. I paused. Jason. Was this revenge? He asked, voice low. I looked him over. No, I said. Revenge would have been private. This was justice. And it had witnesses. He swallowed hard, then reached for something in his coat pocket. A letter? A note? Maybe an apology? He hesitated. Then shoved it back. You really think this changes anything? He muttered. I'll still publish. I'll get hired again. I smiled coldly. You might. But the world will know. Every Google search. Every student forum. Every hiring board. This will follow you. Jason's pride flickered in his eyes. I gave you everything. You were nothing until Until you what? I cut in. Until you stood on my shoulders to reach your own ego? He flinched. I didn't wait for another word. I turned and walked away. He didn't call out again. As I reached the campus gate, the sun was setting behind the administration building. Orange light spilled across the lawn. For the first time in what felt like years, even across lifetimes, I breathed without bitterness. The girl who had once baked lemon chiffon cake for her cheating husband was gone. The woman who remained? She didn't beg. She didn't break. She dismantled them piece by piece, with facts, silence, and a calculated smile. I didn't need to win a war with screaming or fists. All I needed was truth and time. And both were mine now. There's a strange silence that follows scandal. The kind that wraps around the ruins like fog. Heavy, lingering, pretending to protect when all it really does is smother. That's the silence Jason Miller lived in now. No longer Professor Miller. No longer the pride of Westbridge University. Just a name people whispered with either ridicule or regret. It didn't take long for the school to scrub him from their website. His publications remained online, but footnoted with disclaimers. Guest lectures and panel invites vanished like smoke. Even the students who once gushed about his charm and intellect now shared posts mocking his downfall. And Jason? He couldn't get hired. Not even by private institutions. I heard about his first interview rejection from Nina. She'd seen him outside a prep academy on the east side of town, holding a thin portfolio under one arm and wearing the same blazer he wore during his lectures. They didn't even let him finish, she told me over coffee. The principal recognized him from the news. Apparently, parents had already warned the school not to touch him. I didn't reply. But inside, I imagined Jason walking out of that office with his pride still pinned to his collar like it hadn't been torn apart weeks ago. The second rejection came from a public high school. The school board there was conservative, image-obsessed. Jason submitted his resume anyway. He was desperate. They didn't even respond. Eventually, he settled for a job at a tiny private learning center 2 subway stops from the university. It wasn't prestigious. It wasn't full-time. And it didn't come with respect. So he took it. Because Summer was pressuring him. They had moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment above a dry cleaner. The place was noisy, humid, and perpetually smelled like detergent and steam. Not quite the cozy forever home Summer had imagined when she swore he'd take care of her forever. But Jason had no savings left, and Summer had never worked a real job in her life. She used to wear designer heels to class. Now she paced their peeling linoleum floor barefoot, scrolling through her phone with increasing panic. I told you this would happen, she snapped one evening loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I said we needed savings. And I told you not to post that stupid essay, he shouted back. If you'd kept your mouth shut. She hurled a coffee mug at the wall. It didn't hit him. But it shattered loudly enough to wake the baby in the next unit. The next day, Summer applied for a hostess job at a local bar. Jason pretended not to care. But I knew better. I ran into his mother on campus that week. I was on my way to submit my graduate course selections when I spotted her near the old main gate, standing there holding a cloth-wrapped bundle and looking lost. She hadn't aged much in my memory, but there was something dull in her eyes now. Like grief that hadn't found a place to land. Mrs. Miller? I said softly. She turned. Rachel, she said, a smile breaking through her tired face. I was hoping I'd see you. I swallowed. You came to see Jason? She nodded. I've been calling him. He won't answer. I brought his favorite dumplings. I made. He used to love them. I forced a smile. I'm sure he still does. She sighed. You always supported him. You helped him. And what did he do in return? I didn't answer. Later that day I saw the scene unfold like a bad play. Jason had come to the campus gate, not to meet his mother, but to drop off papers for a student he was still ghostwriting for. He spotted her from across the road. He froze. Then he crossed quickly, his expression tight. Mom, what are you doing here? Why haven't you answered your phone? She asked. I've been calling for weeks. Are you sick? No. I've just been busy. With what? She asked. You're not teaching. You're not even allowed inside the school. Mom, please, let's not do this here. What happened to you, Jason? Her voice broke. You were the pride of our family. We had a banquet when you got hired. The whole village came to celebrate. And now look at you, living in shame with that girl. She's not worth your future, she snapped. Students walking by slowed down, sensing something explosive. Jason reached for her hand. Please. Let's go home. But she shook him off. You ruined your life for a girl who posted love poems instead of studying. And now, you won't even speak to the woman who raised you. A small group of undergrads had stopped. Phones were raised. Some were already recording. I gave up everything to raise you, she said, her voice rising. Worked 2 jobs. Went hungry. Sent you to college while I slept on the floor. Jason looked around, panicking. Mom, lower your voice. Why? She cried. Ashamed now? After all you've done? She pulled back her hand and slapped him across the face. A sharp, cracking sound echoed across the gate. Jason stood still, cheek red, eyes wide. His mother, breathless and shaking, whispered, You are no longer my pride. And then she turned and walked away. The students didn't cheer. They didn't mock. They just watched in stunned silence. And Jason? He didn't move for a long time. The videos were online within an hour. Professor gets slapped by mom after scandal. Deserved? When your mom's more honest than you are. From PhD to pitiful, Jason Miller's fall from grace continues. I didn't boost those. I didn't have to. The internet was doing the work for me now. At home, Summer was losing patience. I heard from an old classmate who lived 2 doors down from them. Apparently, the walls were thin and their fights were no longer occasional. They were constant. She's loud, the classmate said. Like screaming loud. One night she shouted, You're useless. You can't even teach middle schoolers. And then he threw something. I wasn't surprised. Jason had always wrapped himself in intellectual pride. Once it cracked, there was nothing underneath but bitterness and panic. One evening, Summer posted a selfie online. She wore a low-cut blouse and dark lipstick. In the caption she wrote, When your man can't provide, a girl's gotta hustle #nightshift. She deleted it within 20 minutes. But not before I screenshot it. I got another message from a mutual connection days later. Jason had been fired from the tutoring center. Apparently, a student's parent had recognized him and stormed into the building. Is that the man teaching my son? The woman had shouted. He's the reason my niece didn't get into grad school. She caused such a scene the school had no choice but to let him go. Jason came home that night to Summer painting her nails and scrolling through job listings. When he walked in, soaked from the rain and looking like a drowned ghost, she didn't even look up. Well, she asked. Did they keep you? He dropped his bag. They fired me. She snorted. Of course they did. I'm doing my best, he muttered. Her eyes flicked to him. Your best used to mean something. Now it's just another excuse. He didn't respond. She stood, crossed the room and jabbed a finger at his chest. You lost your job, your career, your dignity, and you dragged me down with you. If I wanted to be poor, I would have married someone honest. Jason clenched his fists. You don't get to say that. Don't I? She hissed. You said you'd take care of me. That I'd never have to work a day in my life. Now I'm the one picking up shifts at a bar while you mope like some sad little poet. I gave up everything for you, he shouted. And you expect me to thank you? She laughed bitterly. You're not a hero, Jason. You're just a has-been who got played. He didn't hit her. But he did leave. That night he sat alone in a 24-hour diner until sunrise, scribbling equations in a napkin with shaking hands. No one recognized him anymore. No one cared. Back in my apartment, I opened my journal and wrote 2 words. They're cracking. Because they were. One piece at a time. And I wasn't done yet. The first time I saw Jason after his dismissal, he looked smaller. Not physically. But something about the way he stood, shoulders slightly hunched, collar wrinkled, like the world had pressed a thumb down on him, made him look like he had collapsed inward. It was a crisp Tuesday morning. I had just finished a consultation with a professor at Westbridge's graduate admissions office when I stepped out of the glass building and nearly collided with him on the steps. His eyes widened the second he saw me. Rachel. I didn't flinch. Jason. He looked me over like he hadn't seen me in years. Maybe in his timeline he hadn't. You look successful, he said, like the word tasted strange in his mouth. I smiled slow and easy. And you look unemployed. He winced. I deserve that. I turned to leave. Wait, please, he called out, following me down the steps. Just hear me out. I didn't stop walking. Jason, I have nothing to say to you. You've already heard everything. Especially online. He rushed to match my pace, nearly tripping over his own shoelace. Rachel, listen, I'm not asking for much. Just one call to your father. He still sits on the university's advisory board, doesn't he? He knows people. If he puts in a word, maybe another school. I stopped. Turned. Are you serious right now? His face was tight, desperate. I know I made mistakes. I know I hurt you. But one phone call. You want me to use the same family connection you used to exploit my silence? I said, voice cold. The same father whose influence you married into, only to discard me when you thought you were above it? He flinched. That's not what I meant. You left me, I said, to die. His mouth opened, then closed. His eyes flicked to mine, dark and unsure. Rachel. Do you remember? Pass quiet now. The day we signed the divorce papers. The crash. I was bleeding on the asphalt, reaching out. You looked at me like I was nothing. He stared at me, pale. You remember that? I never forgot it. A silence stretched between us. And then, something shifted in his eyes. Fear. Recognition. You weren't supposed to remember that. I raised an eyebrow. But I do. He took a shaky step back as if my words physically struck him. You're reborn too? There was confirmation. I kept my voice neutral. So you knew you had another chance. And you still made all the same mistakes. Jason blinked rapidly. I thought I could fix it this time. I wanted to protect Summer. I didn't think you didn't think, period. He ran a hand through his hair, wild and unraveling. But maybe now we can start over. That made me laugh. Loudly. Start over? Jason, you ghost wrote essays for money. Let your girlfriend get expelled and blamed me. You begged me for help, then stalked me for it. What part of that screams, fresh start, to you? I loved you once, he said. And I pitied you once. We're even. He stepped forward. Please. Wait. We could try again. I stepped back. Try it and I call the police. His eyes burned. You don't mean that. Oh, I do. That night he showed up outside my apartment. At first I thought I was imagining it, just a figure across the street under a broken lamplight. But the second time, he stood in front of the building, hands in his pockets, watching the door for hours. He followed me to the train station the next day. Didn't speak. Just trailed behind me like a ghost in worn shoes and regret. The third time he trailed me to a conference hall where I was speaking. I saw his face in the crowd, unblinking. Didn't applaud. Didn't move. I warned him once. He didn't listen. The final time he followed me from a cafe after my meeting. I walked straight into a police station without looking back. The officers at the front desk recognized me. They'd seen the videos of Jason's mother slapping him. They'd seen the university posts. The headlines. They didn't ask many questions. That evening a squad car pulled up outside my apartment building. Jason stood beneath the flickering porch light, muttering to himself and sketching invisible equations in the air like he was still somebody. The officers approached. He didn't resist. Until they touched him. Then he snapped. "You don't understand," he shouted. "She loved me. We were married. She used to wait for me after class. She made lemon cake for my birthday." "Sir, step back. I was her future," he screamed, eyes wide, voice cracking. "She's mine. I gave up everything for her." Cameras were already rolling. Neighbors stood by, phones up. A few students across the street recognized him and began whispering. Jason lunged once, toward me, not violently, just desperate. The officers shoved him back and pinned him to the hood of the car. He was screaming now. "You said you'd always be there. You promised." I walked toward him slowly, heels clicking on the concrete. His bloodshot eyes locked onto mine. "Rachel, please. Tell them. Tell them it's a mistake." I leaned down, calm, poised. "You were right," I said softly. "This is karma. Remember? You said it to me while I was dying." His mouth opened. "Rachel. Don't follow me again," I said. "You're not going to win this. I won't let you." He stared, frozen. And then, the door slammed shut. The siren wailed. And Jason Miller, former golden boy of academia, was driven away in handcuffs while the entire world watched. The clip trended online within hours. Hashtag stalker professor. Hashtag fall from grace. Hashtag karma came back. Some called it tragic. Some called it deserved. But I didn't care what they called it. Because for once I wasn't the one being dragged into whispers. I was the one walking away. Starting over wasn't a choice. It was a strategy. After Jason's arrest and public disgrace, I withdrew from the university's spotlight. While whispers still chased my name through campus halls, they weren't coded in pity anymore. They were laced with awe. I didn't waste my second life on revenge alone. Revenge was just the cleanup. The real work. That was the future I intended to build. Using the foresight from my past life, I started investing in what I already knew would boom. Mental wellness tech. Journaling platforms. Mindfulness tools. I remembered names, brands, trends. Companies that were still small today but would explode in the next 5 years. I studied their mistakes, avoided their pitfalls, and innovated faster. I named the company Verity, Latin for truth. It started as a simple app. Daily affirmations, emotional check-ins, and therapy-friendly exercises for high-achieving women like me. The ones who were always told to calm down when they were right and smile more when they were breaking. Within a year, Verity had 100,000 downloads. By year 2, we were VC-backed and expanding into wearable tech. Smart jewelry that tracks stress levels. I hired female engineers. Female marketers. I gave internships to students who'd once been bullied into silence by professors like Jason. I built the thing I'd once begged for. And not once did I look back. 3 years after the scandal, Verity hosted a celebration party at a private club in the city. We had just closed a Series B funding round. I wore a sleek black jumpsuit, no longer the girl who dressed for approval. I dressed like I didn't need anyone's. The event was elegant. Clean white roses. Champagne towers. Jazz in the background, not too loud. I was chatting with investors near the bar when I heard the hostess whisper to another girl, "Don't seat them near the booths, he's weird." Curious, I followed her line of sight. And there she was. Summer Holland. Gone was the glossy makeup, the curated sweetness. Her eyeliner was smudged, her skin pale under layers of cheap foundation. The hostess uniform hung off her shoulders like borrowed dignity. She knelt on the floor beside an older customer, pouring drinks and laughing too loudly. Her laugh used to ring like bells. Now it sounded like scraping metal. But what truly made me pause was the man behind her. His hair was unwashed. His face unshaven. He wore a faded hoodie I recognized from college, though it looked 2 sizes too big now. He was sitting at an empty table by himself, drawing invisible symbols in the air with his finger. Formulas. His lips moved constantly, mumbling words no one else understood. Lambda, he whispered, tapping the air. Delta function. Integration. The world moved around him like he didn't exist. Like he was a shadow even time forgot. Summer looked up and caught me watching. She froze. Jason didn't notice me at all. He was too busy talking to Ghost. Summer stood, hurrying toward me like I owed her something. Rachel, she said breathless. Wait, I just want to talk. I raised an eyebrow. Talk? Since when? Her eyes darted back toward Jason then returned to me, desperate. He's not well. He needs help. He doesn't eat. He doesn't sleep. I don't know what to do. That's your problem, isn't it? I replied. He promised you the world. Go collect it. Her mouth opened then closed. I let my gaze drift past her, to the corner where Jason sat, scribbling in air no one else could read. I told him not to follow me, I said quietly. He didn't listen. And you? You thought you'd be the exception. I didn't know it would get this bad, she said. You didn't know anything, I corrected. You didn't know what hard work meant. Or what betrayal costs. Or how a future feels when it's stolen from your hands. I stepped past her. She didn't try to stop me. I walked across the room with my chin high, heels sharp against the tile, past Jason's broken mind and Summer's trembling hands. Neither of them mattered anymore. Because I wasn't the girl they had once used. I was the woman they could never reach. 3 years after I walked away from Jason and Summer in that dim bar, I received a message from an old classmate I hadn't spoken to since graduation. It was just one sentence. Did you hear what happened to Jason Miller? I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care. But because I already knew. It started with rumors. That Jason had gone fully off the grid. That he'd been banned from every academic conference and expelled from every online journal network for suspected plagiarism and fraudulent ghostwriting. That he still sat in dingy coffee shops muttering theorems into napkins. That he told strangers he was once the youngest associate professor in Westbridge's history. That no one believed him anymore. Because now he was just another man with wild eyes, a stained coat, and an endless spiral of thoughts trapped in a mind that had once been brilliant. I didn't visit. I didn't ask where he lived. I didn't need to. The story of his downfall had already unraveled in front of me, one humiliating thread at a time. And I had spent too long stitching my own empire together to waste a second looking at what remained of his. But Summer left him. Eventually even she had enough. They'd been evicted after months of unpaid rent. Jason had taken to sleeping in parks and laundromats. She sold his old academic laptop and vanished. Word was she went abroad with a businessman she'd met in the bar. Someone older, richer, crueler. Jason was alone. And he wasn't just forgotten. He had become invisible. I attended our university alumni reunion out of curiosity more than sentiment. It was held in a rooftop ballroom overlooking the skyline. Champagne flowed, the room buzzed with laughter, and polished professionals mingled in tailored suits. I arrived late, dressed in crimson. The moment I walked in, heads turned. Whispers followed like perfume trails. That's Rachel Green, CEO of Verity. Mental wellness pioneer. 3-time Forbes under 30. Net worth, rumored 8 figures. Rumored to have once been married to a disgraced professor. No one asked about him anymore. They only asked how I'd done it. I stood by the windows watching the city shimmer below me. I had grown. Not just richer. Not just smarter. But free. Free from the chains of trying to be loved by someone who only valued me as long as I was useful. Free from nights crying over a man who couldn't even tell the difference between admiration and obsession. Free from carrying guilt that was never mine to bear. That girl, naive, hopeful, hungry for validation, was long gone. I had built something from the ashes they left me in. And the world saw it now. A former professor approached me. One who had once quietly dismissed my capabilities when I asked to lead a research study. Rachel, he said, voice tight with manufactured warmth. Your work with Verity, it's changed everything. You've become a symbol for something much bigger than startups. I smiled. For surviving, you mean? He chuckled awkwardly. Well, yes. That too. I prefer the word rebuilding, I replied. Surviving is what you do when the storm hits. Rebuilding is what you do when you decide the world will never bury you again. His mouth opened, but I didn't wait for a reply. I turned away and took my champagne to the terrace. Later that night, as the lights of the city sparkled around me, I pulled out my phone and opened the private journal app we'd built into Verity's newest version. I typed slowly, deliberately. Jason never came back. Not really. He's still out there somewhere, I guess, scratching formulas on bathroom tiles, muttering about lost potential. But he's not the man I once knew. That man died the moment he walked away from me on that blood-soaked road. As for Summer, she always thought she could trade youth for power. She didn't realize power demands memory, discipline, vision, and she never had any. They both tried to build their throne on my back. But they didn't know one thing. I don't need a crown to rule. I never did. I closed the app and looked up at the skyline again. Tall towers, endless lights, everything alive and humming. Everything mine. Behind me, a few executives from Verity laughed over something near the bar. One of them called out, "Rachel, come make a toast." I lifted my glass, but I didn't speak yet. I let the quiet settle for a moment. And then, calm and clear, I said, "They shattered me to build their throne. I crushed them and built my own." The end.